What's the most real relationship advice you can give? It's fine to not always want to spend 100% of your time with your spouse. Not every moment of every day is going to be bliss, and sometimes it really takes some effort. I love my wife to bits, but there are some days when I would just like to do things by myself. It doesn't mean our relationship isn't great, but it can be really refreshing to just take a stroll around a shopping center, or go and get some food alone or something. This 100%. My spouse goes weekly to a Pathfinder game. That's his alone time. I occasionally go to a punk show, or have a beer with my friends. It can be even simpler. I will go read a book in the other room, and get my alone time. He likes to cook, so he'll start up in the kitchen, and I stay away while he listens to his music. Everyone needs alone time. I think alone time probably helps you value them more too. Like, not that you necessarily are yearning for them, but you're happy to see them again. Don't lose yourself as an individual in a relationship. Happened to me. Where were you 10 years ago? Intimacy is way more important than most people realize. Like I've told my wife, yeah sure, there's lust involved. There's also interest in making your partner feel good as well. If that interest isn't there, your partner might as well be a sex toy for all they mean to you. Easy relationship killer is to start avoiding sex. Sex isn't everything, but the lack of it quickly turns into nothing. I was in a relationship with my GF for about 8 months when she started becoming frustrated at me for various reasons. One night, in an emotional argument, she spent 10 minutes describing all the great things her ex used to do for her that I didn't do, not sexually, just generally in the relationship, while I sat there and bawled my eyes out. I'm a grown man. After that day I could never get it up, because whenever we would be intimate, I would start picturing her ex's face and lose all libido. Our relationship quickly deteriorated. She's my ex now. I still love her though. Go on holiday together. If you can agree on food, sleep soundly, compromise on activities, and do your own thing one of the days, and not get mad at each other, you stand a good chance of lasting a while. I love my boyfriend to bits and miss him a lot. We don't live together yet, but boy do I like sleeping on my own in bed sometimes. Space is healthy. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you have to live in each other's pockets. Agreed. I love my boyfriend, but I also love sleeping in my own bed sometimes. When you disagree, remember that you're on the same team. You're supposed to fight a problem, not the other person. This is such an awesome way of putting that concept. 1. Don't expect the other person to be able to read your mind. 2. Be a team, not opponents. 3. Everybody farts at some point. Number 3 has been a hard thing for me during my current relationship. My so has a colostomy bag after battling colon cancer, which has been a huge learning experience in itself. I'm all for being comfortable with the body and all of its weird, icky processes, and I'm usually quick to make that known. But knowing that he physically can't fart makes me reluctant to do it around him. Like, I don't want to be a show-off. Yeah, no. Edit. A fart is an emission of gas from the anus. I'm well aware he is still capable of emitting gas elsewhere. P. Flaunt it if you got it, I guess. Communication is the foundation upon which everything else is built. They say don't go to bed angry, not because anger does something while you're sleeping, but because it means you didn't communicate properly and you're giving up on trying. Be calm. Actively listen. Do not dismiss your partner's statements. Assume good faith. It's you and me versus the problem, not me versus you. If something's bugging you, talk to your SU about it. If you feel enraged about something, wait until you're well fed, well rested, with warm extremities before talking about it. But talk about it at the first opportunity, calmly, rationally, and honestly. Keep the discussion limited to that one narrow thing. If something's bugging your SO, hear them out. Never think, well, I'm not bothered by that, so it's not a problem. Think, my SO is bothered by this, and that's a problem. If you think the concern is unreasonable, frame the discussion as solving the problem of your SO is being unhappy. The worst fights and arguments happen over trivial things, because it's not the trivial thing that's actually causing the problem. It's probably a series of things, or a general lack of satisfaction, and the toothpaste cap being left off is just the instigator of the fight. If you communicate often and openly, these things will not fester, they won't pile up, and you won't get into such fights. You have to be honest with them, especially when it's hard to do. Me and my boyfriend get uncomfortably real with each other sometimes, and something we have both learned is to listen to criticism without getting defensive. And when giving criticism, we don't attack each other, no matter how angry or sad we are at each other. I've had him call me out for certain behaviors that nobody has ever called me out on, and I've done the same for him. We are both better people for it, because when we get it all out on the table, we have no choice but to work on ourselves. Your spouse isn't going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. There will be mistakes and misunderstandings. What really matters in a relationship is not being perfect, but how you handle the imperfections of yourself and your spouse in a respectful, reasonable way. Edit. Wow. My first gold. And it wasn't even on a comment about dicks. Thank you, kind stranger. This is the best comment here, and the ones about communication. Learning how to be bored together is important. You don't have to be on the go, doing stuff and planning stuff, and being fun and exciting all the time. It's okay to just sit around and not do anything, and not talk to each other. It's not unhealthy, I promise. This was one of the biggest things I learned when I moved in with my so, and what I give as advice to couples just moving in, especially when it's their first time living with and so. You have to learn how to be in the same room without actively hanging out together. When your whole relationship has been dates, it's hard to just be without feeling like you should be interacting. Getting comfortable just chilling there doing your own thing is a good thing. There's so much pressure to do stuff, especially in the age of social media. Other couples do stuff all the time. Everyone is looking for adventures. We must keep up with the carefully manufactured images other people put out on Instagram. In reality, it's not necessary and can often be a serious source of stress. My husband has been playing Ark all day. I've been on Reddit or playing The Sims. We watched a couple episodes of 10th Kingdom earlier and that's all we've done together today. We are in the same room, but we are not doing the same things. This is not a bad thing. It's called being comfortable together. There's a reason it's called the honeymoon phase, and eventually you won't have as much to talk about other than how the day went, or might not always feel those butterflies in your stomach when you think about them. That's when it becomes a test in the relationship and you both have to work on it to make it work. You will get into fights, but learn to get over them, or I doubt it'll last. Resentment can kill feelings for someone. Edit. I wanted to add, I'm not a love/relationship expert by any means, I'm just going off of things I've seen and gone through with my own husband. So RIP my inbox. I also wanted to say thank you for my first ever silver and first ever gold. That was unexpected, and I really appreciate it. You trade butterflies for familiarity, excitement for comfort. Just entered a relationship with someone, and the butterflies are starting to fade, only to be replaced by calmness. So I'm relieved to see your response. Close bracket. In an ideal relationship the contributions are 60-40 where both partners are the one trying to give 60%. My mom asked an elderly couple who had been married for decades what their secret was. They said that they act as if being nice to each other is a competition. That has always stuck with me. I have been married for 28 years. When I was engaged to a lady, then in her 80s and still very much in love with her husband of 60+ years, told me this. Just because he is your husband don't think he requires less regard than your friends. Before you yell at him for something, anything, ask yourself if you would yell at your friend for the same thing. What she was trying to say is that being married together is not a free pass to stop being a decent human being. You are going to get annoyed by the socks on the floor, but is it an excuse to fly off the handle? Respect and common courtesy are my recommendation. And you don't need to keep score, there's no winner. I can't upvote this enough. I see couples snap at one another all the time over the silliest stuff, and wonder how it must feel to be constantly on guard like that. Just be nice to each other. If you can't stand to be nice to each other, I mean call it a day, man. Life is too short to listen to them, communicate with them, compromise sometimes, F them regularly, to elaborate on compromise. It doesn't always mean something we'll both enjoy. At times it will very likely mean today we do something my partner likes and that I sparingly tolerate. But tomorrow that reverses. My ex refused to see that side of a compromise. I would see horror films with her because to me spending time with her was more important than avoiding seeing a horror film. But if I wanted to see a film that she wouldn't like, asking her to see it with me was forcing her to do something she didn't want and was therefore unfair. And I can see why she's your ex. Guy here. This probably sounds simple, but here's what I've learned. Know yourself. Where you're at in life. If you're in a S storm, legal S. Money S. Drugs and alcohol S. Legal S. You're probably not ready for anything serious. Clean up your act first. Be honest. No matter how fucked up S is. If you want to move forward in a serious way, all the cards got to be on the table. Take it slow. Get to know each other. But in the end no secrets. There is some S. That is nobody's business, but I ain't talking about that. Know her. What she's been through. And what she wants out of life. You both need to be pretty much on board. You need to be heading for the same thing. Kids, buy a house or gypsy life. Don't matter. Keep a sharp eye on things. You need to make sure she's doing okay and let her know you're doing okay. Same with her to you. After that it's just dodging stupid. Lots of wisdom here. No secrets and be on board with each other's plan is big. Relationships are work. They aren't always fun. You won't always be madly in love. And you can't put them on a shelf and ignore them. But they shouldn't be all work. No. But it you shouldn't shun the work. Too many of my friends are toxic in their relationships. Ending them summarily just because any work is seen as too much. Or let relationships turn toxic because it's easier than maintaining healthy ones. I know people like that, bouncing from person to person, because they enjoy the honeymoon phase and refuse to accept what is required for a long-term relationship to succeed. Always be mindful and thoughtful to that person's love map, like they might need a quick text every morning. When you get to work, letting them know you're safe makes zero sense to you, but knowing it's something small and means the world to them, well, why the hell not? They might get stressed out, and you helping to clean the house for when they finished work might mean more to them than someone else you've been with who wanted flowers to show love. Know what it is that your partner loves and makes them feel love too. Edit. Oh wow. Thank you very much for whoever gave me a silver. Thank you. Thank you. Makes zero sense to you, but knowing it's something small and means the world to them, well, why the hell not? This is the thing. I've been told before that doing this is fake, but what could be more genuine than doing something for someone because you love them and you know it makes them happy? And if it's a text, just to say you love them and you're safe, it's a 10-second message to type. For fuck's sake, that's so little time in the span of an entire day. Why not do it if you know that it makes them happy? Win together, lose together. A little off topic, but I've found that prioritizing the relationship correctly helps a lot. My roommate is my best friend, but he's a roommate first, a coworker second, and a friend third. We talk about finances and housework completely differently than we shoot the shit. This helps maintain efficient lines of communication regardless of what's going on. I still struggle with this. How do you learn to prioritize this? What are some things you wouldn't discuss with your roommate, for example? And how do you figure out what's appropriate and what isn't? I'm socially clueless. We established that anytime we talk about finances, chores, or other rooming topics, we have to put everything down and be available. No distractions so each voice can be heard and come to an understanding. This was established on day one, and we never will break this mantra. Similar thing for work issues, although it helps that he's front of house and I'm in the kitchen, so we don't really ever have to discuss work outside of venting. I sometimes have to get on him about getting off his phone before we start, but that's about it. I never begin the discussion without his full and undivided attention. We are really good friends who are planning to go to Japan in a year in pursuit of his goal to be an animator. Outside of the day one rule, we have felt everything out as we have lived together for nearly a year now. I found him on a Roommate Finder website because he liked anime. He's nothing special from a lot of points of view, but he is very dear to me as a roommate person. and friend because of how we have developed our communication. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If they are mean, if they are vindictive, if they use you, if they show you that they don't really care about you, believe them. If they make you feel inadequate, on edge, scared, nervous, unworthy, or like a disappointment, believe them. If they're entitled, narcissistic, sociopathic, manipulative, or unfair, believe them. Life isn't a movie. You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. More often than not, they just are who they are. So take off the rose-colored glasses and stop thinking love will find a way. If it isn't working, change it. Don't spend your precious time lamenting over a person who wouldn't genuinely lament over you. This sounds bleak, I know, but relationships and love are supposed to be the most beautiful thing in the universe. If your relationship is not improving your quality of life on the aggregate, you need to seriously reassess what you want in life. Because you deserve better. You only get so much time to find people in your life that make it worth living. Don't get caught up on people who will make you wish you never lived it. Yes, yeah, gotta make sure you're choosing them as advertised, not falling in love with their potential. I don't think your perspective is bleak at all. I think it's balanced and disillusioned. In related vernacular, choosing to believe who someone is a great example of living life on life's terms. It's not always easy, but it gets you out of a lot of unnecessary wrestling matches. Probably not gonna get this right, but it hit me the hardest after spending 5 years in a toxic relationship. The idea that everyone in their lives is working towards creating a jigsaw. Each part of their life, be it work, relationships or hobbies, make up parts of the jigsaw. Everyone's is different. Some people's careers make up the edges, the less important and interesting parts. Some people's are their relationships. What's important is the center of the puzzle. That's what people are working towards. Their lives goals. When you're in a relationship, your puzzles combine. You eventually start working towards a shared goal. You might make some compromises on what goes to the outer edges, but you should both be working towards the same center. Occasionally, it turns out that the centerpiece you were working towards with your soul isn't what you thought it was. This sucks. And believe me, it really does. But there's nothing wrong with cutting your losers. If you're going for a different jigsaw, and the pieces don't fit, you won't get a coherent picture. I hope I explained it right. And yes, it has been taken from Daniel Sloss. He puts it way better than I do, so I would recommend checking him out on Netflix. Daniel Sloss is the shit, and I think you worded it very well. If you go into a marriage/long-term commitment with the impression that you'll be happy all the time and your life will only change for the better, you are absolutely wrong. Be realistic that there will be days you won't be able to stand each other. Your lives may absolutely hit rough patches and you will not agree on how or why that situation occurred, or even how to get out of it, and the like. Came here to say this. And when you have kids, it tends to get even more difficult and adds even more fights and resentments. Life changes, and so do relationships. The butterflies and weak knees only last so long, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just different. Don't just look for the person who makes your heart race. Look for someone you can also see being friends with, because in the end that's what you become. Best friends. Friends fight, but best friends always/usually find a way to work through it together. Oh, and it's also my experience that having one shared hobby and one independent hobby helps too. My husband and I game together, but if I need a break from him or vice versa, I'll go read a book and he will watch sports or whatever. A study of long-term relationships found that successful relationships have one major thing in common. The spouses are verbally supportive of each other's interests and thoughts. For example, if your spouse is very excited about Pokemon Go and wants to tell you all about the monsters they caught that day, the supportive spouse would listen to them talk about it and be excited for what they are excited about, even if they don't know how the game's played or think that it's stupid. The couple that's going to divorce, that other spouse would say, "I don't care. That game is for kids," or be generally dismissive of the conversation and change topics. Support what they are excited about as much as you can, even if it's just listening with a smile on your face while you do a shopping list in your head. If you feel like you're having a hard time getting a girlfriend or boyfriend, then you're doing it wrong. It's not something to get. It's a vibe you have with someone, and it's not promised. Thank you. My roommates constantly complain that they wish they had a relationship like mine and my boyfriend's, or feel like the world owes them for never giving them a boyfriend. Don't light yourself on fire to keep others warm. Never heard this before, but I love it. Without bypassing the obvious one, which is the importance of communication. My mother always told us that how you say something is as important as what you're saying. From the tone to how subject is approached or delivered can make the difference between opening a dialogue or having an argument. Another good one I've seen around Reddit, it's you, plural, vs the problem. Your partner should also be your best friend and somebody you can have fun with, as if you were both still children. This is the one that really resonated with me. My boyfriend and I are constantly teasing each other and laughing at stupid things that no one else finds funny. We're always saying that we are such children, even though we are both around 40. My boyfriend and I are constantly teasing each other and laughing at stupid things that no one else finds funny. We're always saying that we are such children, even though we are both around 40. My girlfriend is a dank meme lord. I mean, it's amazing just how much she is in meme culture. For every occasion available, she knows how and where to find a meme to laugh at. Healthy boundaries. It's important to be supportive when your partner is going through a hard time. However, it's not healthy to take on your partner's burdens as your own. Analyzing the unhealthy patterns in your early relationships can be helpful for figuring out difficulties you may have in this area. If you're starting to doubt a relationship, do not drag it out. End it so you don't waste precious time finding someone who is a better fit.